Have you ever felt there was an invisible presence fighting for your soul amidst the darkness of this world? What if I revealed today that at this very moment, a cosmic battle is being waged beyond the veil? It's no coincidence you're watching this video now. You are drawn by forces beyond your comprehension. Archangel Michael, the most powerful celestial warrior, wasn't created merely to worship. He was forged for war, a war that is reaching its climax in our days. The ancient texts were sealed, the revelations hidden. The modern church has remained silent about Michael's true purpose, but the signs are everywhere. We are living the days prophesied in Daniel, when Michael shall stand up, not soon, but now. As darkness advances over nations and souls, few realize that Michael's sword is already unsheathed. What I'm about to reveal has never been taught in your church. It involves spiritual codes that connect the past to the future, Michael's creation to the final judgment. Most have chosen to ignore these signs, but are you ready to see beyond the veil? What the Bible really says about this powerful celestial being will completely change your perception about the times we live in. My brother, my sister, this message isn't for everyone. It's for those who feel in their spirit that something monumental is about to happen. You've been sensing it, haven't you? That spiritual restlessness, that internal calling. Michael wasn't created for normal times. He was designated for the apocalyptic moments of human history. What if I told you he is more active today than in any other era? Before proceeding with this revelation that will shake the foundations of your spiritual understanding, I ask that you click the subscribe button right now. This channel was raised to expose what others have silenced, and your subscription strengthens this prophetic mission. Also activate the bell, because soon I'll bring more revelations like this one. Now, leave a like so that other spiritual warriors may also receive this crucial message. Are you ready to know the true purpose for which Michael was created and how this connects directly to the final events that are already underway? Take a deep breath, because what comes next changes everything. The veil will be torn, the truth exposed, and your place in this cosmic war revealed. We live in an era of unprecedented spiritual deception. While many seek answers in empty philosophies, the truth about the invisible forces that shape our reality remains hidden. Modern pastors avoid talking about warrior angels. Churches silence discussions about celestial battles. And meanwhile, the enemy advances without resistance, devastating families and imprisoning souls with subtle lies that seem like truth. Michael isn't just a mythological character or a distant symbol. He is a real celestial being with a specific apocalyptic mission that was determined before the foundation of the world. His Hebrew name, Michael, is a declaration of war. Who is like God? This question isn't rhetorical. It's a battle cry against all Luciferian arrogance that tries to usurp the divine throne. Scripture mentions Michael only 5 times, but each appearance marks a critical moment in the history of redemption. This isn't accidental. It's a divinely ordained pattern that reveals the exact moment we now live in. The ancients understood this. The prophets saw it. But this generation has lost the ability to discern the times and therefore doesn't recognize the intensified angelic activity around them. What do you feel when you look at the current global chaos? That inexplicable oppression, that sensation that invisible forces are manipulating events. It's not paranoia, it's spiritual discernment. Michael wasn't designated to fight against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers that operate in the heights. And now, in these final days, his sword is flaming like never before. When Daniel prophesied about the time of trouble such as never was, he wasn't talking about a distant future. He was describing our days. Days of spiritual confusion, mass manipulation, and erosion of truth. But also days when Michael stands up to defend the people whose names are written in the book. Do you now realize why this message is so urgent for you? In the early Christian tradition, the church fathers understood Michael not just as a protector, but as an executor of divine judgment. This dimension was gradually suppressed, leaving us with a diluted and harmless version of who he really is. Today, we restore the complete truth. Michael was created with a specific eschatological purpose, to be the divine instrument in the final battle that has already begun to unfold before our eyes. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels. Notice the verb in the imperfect tense. This isn't a future or past battle, but continuous. The spiritual conflict that began in heaven now intensifies on earth, and Michael commands the celestial resistance against the onslaughts of darkness that seek to devour God's saints. The name Michael wasn't chosen arbitrarily. In the language of heaven, each name carries power and purpose. Michael is a declaration of cosmic war against the first lie, I will be like the Most High. Each time Michael acts, he reaffirms God's exclusive sovereignty against all usurpation. He doesn't just defend, he proclaims an eternal truth through his very existence. In Daniel 10, we discover Michael fighting against the prince of the kingdom of Persia, a high-ranking territorial spirit. This battle lasted 21 days, revealing that spiritual conflict has specific geography and temporality. The nations of Earth aren't just political entities, they are battlefields where angelic and demonic forces compete for influence over decisions that affect the prophetic plan. The ancient Hebrew manuscripts describe Michael as one of the chief princes, suggesting a celestial hierarchy established from the beginning with specific purpose. He isn't just another angel, but a being of extraordinary power and authority, created with an apocalyptic mission inscribed in his very nature. His purpose transcends ages, but fully manifests in these last days. The Jewish tradition preserved in the Qumran texts reveals Michael as the Prince of Light, in direct opposition to Belial, the Prince of Darkness. This cosmic duality isn't mere philosophical dualism. It's the most fundamental spiritual reality that structures human history and culminates in the final eschatological events. Every decision you make today aligns you with one of these kingdoms at war. When spiritual veils momentarily tear, as happened with Elisha in 2 Kings 6, chariots of fire and angelic armies strategically positioned are revealed. Michael commands these invisible forces that constantly operate around us. What seems like chaos to the natural eyes is in reality a celestial battle orchestrated with divine precision to separate the wheat from the chaff in these end times. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent, called the devil, and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. Revelation 12:9. This expulsion isn't a mythological event. It's a spiritual reality with tangible consequences that intensify now. Satanic fury manifests on earth because his time is running out. Michael doesn't face Satan with his own powers, but with delegated authority. The Lord rebuke thee was his declaration, as Jude reveals to us. This is the pattern of authentic spiritual warfare, never based on personal power, but always on the supreme authority of Jehovah Sabaoth, the Lord of hosts. Michael's humility, even in his immense power, is the key to his cosmic victory. The Qumran manuscripts reveal a fascinating detail. Michael was designated as the specific guardian of the elect, those whose names are written in the book of life from the foundation of the world. His mission isn't universal, but directed to preserve the lineage of true faith against the spiritual contamination that characterizes the last days, when even the elect would be deceived if it were possible. Satan's defeat by Michael in heaven created a paradoxical reality. It accelerated the advance of God's kingdom and simultaneously intensified the persecution of the saints. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth! This celestial lament in Revelation 12:12 acknowledges the terrible cost of celestial victory. We live exactly in this time of intensification where light becomes brighter and darkness denser. In interbiblical apocalyptic texts, Michael is often portrayed with a scale, symbolizing his role in divine judgment. This isn't just a metaphor, it's a revelation of the supernatural process of separation that is occurring now, invisible to natural eyes, but discernible to the spiritually sensitive. Every soul is being weighed, every heart examined in the light of eternal truth. If you're feeling the power of these revelations transforming your spiritual understanding, this is the perfect moment to leave your like and subscribe to the channel. Your participation isn't just a gesture, it's a spiritual positioning. Keep watching, because the next revelation about Michael will completely change your vision of the events unfolding around you. Yet Michael the Archangel, when contending with the devil he disputed about the body of Moses, durst not bring against him a railing accusation, but said, "The Lord rebuke thee." Jude 9. This enigmatic confrontation reveals a deep pattern of spiritual warfare that few understand. Moses' body represents legitimate spiritual authority that the enemy always tries to corrupt or control. Why did Satan desire Moses' body? The apocryphal texts suggest the plan was to create a place of idolatrous worship to divert Israel. The enemy always seeks to transform authentic vessels of God into objects of improper veneration. This pattern repeats today when anointed leaders become idols and veneration replaces true worship of the Creator. This dispute occurred in an invisible dimension, but with visible implications for Israel. Similarly, the battles that Michael wages today happen beyond the veil, but their consequences manifest in every global crisis, every spiritual advance, and every supernatural resistance that the saints experience. We are living amid a cosmic conflict much more real than the material world around us. Michael's method in this confrontation reveals the celestial strategy for our days, not confronting evil with human arrogance, but with submission to God's supreme authority. "The Lord rebuke thee" isn't a passive phrase. It's the invocation of the universe's maximum power through recognition of the divine hierarchy. This is the key to victory in times of intensified spiritual conflict. The Dead Sea Scrolls suggest that this dispute occurred at a spiritual threshold, between the visible and invisible, between life and death. Michael operates precisely at these critical thresholds of history, where spiritual decisions determine the prophetic course of nations. Today we are exactly at such an apocalyptic threshold, where what happens in the spirit determines what will manifest on earth. Moses' body carried the authority of the law. Michael defended this authority not for itself, but for what it represented: God's immutable truth. In the last days, the most intense battle is for truth. It's no coincidence that we live in the era of post-truth, where relativism and deception dominate. Michael rises now to defend the last remnants of absolute truth in a world that has completely rejected it. "And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince which standeth for the children of thy people. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was, since there was a nation even to that same time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book." Daniel 12:1. This prophecy isn't for a distant future. We are living its fulfillment now. The Hebrew expression for "shall stand up," ya'amod, implies a transition of posture, from observer to active intervener. Michael silently observed for centuries, but now assumes an offensive role against the forces of darkness. This is the prophetic marker that confirms we have entered the final phase of human history, when the celestial guardian abandons his waiting posture to act decisively. The unprecedented time of trouble doesn't refer only to physical catastrophes, but primarily to the intensity of spiritual conflict. The war for control of souls has never been so fierce. Entire systems of deception have been established, manipulation technologies perfected, and doctrines of demons sophisticated for this specific time. Michael stands up precisely because the attack is unprecedented in its complexity and reach. The ancient texts associate Michael specifically with the protection of sealed knowledge, truths reserved for the end time. Daniel was instructed to seal the book until the time of the end, Daniel 12:4. Michael guards these revelations until the appointed time, and now is releasing prophetic understanding for the last faithful remnant. What you are hearing now is part of this strategic release of previously sealed knowledge. Michael's rising coincides with resurrection. Many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, Daniel 12:2. This isn't just a future physical resurrection, but also represents an unprecedented spiritual awakening that is occurring now. Souls that were dormant are being awakened by direct angelic intervention. This call to awakening is one of Michael's main functions in these last moments before the end. The ancient Enochian tradition describes Michael as the guardian of celestial secrets and the bearer of apocalyptic keys. When he rises, secrets are revealed and prophetic doors are opened. That's why, at this exact historical moment, spiritual veils are being removed and previously hidden revelations are becoming accessible to those who have ears to hear what the Spirit is saying to the end-time churches. "For the Lord himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the Archangel, and with the trump of God, and the dead in Christ shall rise first." 1 Thessalonians 4:16. This voice isn't metaphorical. It's literally Michael's cry that will cross dimensions at the moment of Christ's return. His voice already begins to resonate prophetically in the spirit of the watchman. The Greek term keliusma, translated as shout, was used in the military context for a command cry that mobilized troops for the final battle. Michael's voice doesn't just announce, it activates, summons, and mobilizes. Today, a supernatural call is reaching the spiritual warriors chosen for the final moments. Do you feel that call reverberating in your spirit as you hear these words? In Jewish apocalyptic literature, Michael is often associated with the keys of death and Hades, controlling the boundary between dimensions. When his voice breaks the dimensional veil, natural laws bow to spiritual authority. The dead in Christ doesn't refer only to the physically deceased, but also to the spiritually asleep who will be awakened by the final call before it's too late. Michael's voice doesn't sound in isolation, but in perfect harmony with the divine trumpet. This celestial synchronization represents the final convergence of all prophetic elements in a culminating moment of history. We are witnessing the first echoes of this cosmic event in the spiritual, social, and natural convulsions that shake our world with increasing intensity. In Qumran manuscripts, the voice of the Archangel is described as a force that definitively separates light and darkness. There will be no more gray zone, no possible compromise. This final polarization is already underway, forcing each soul to a definitive positioning. Michael's voice is creating an irreversible separation between opposing spiritual kingdoms, a painful but necessary process for the consummation of times. Are you feeling the weight and urgency of these revelations? If this content is opening your spiritual eyes, please share now with other warriors who need to awaken. Click like and subscribe to strengthen this prophetic mission, and activate the bell. Each notification could be the divine alert you need at the right moment. And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince which standeth for the children of thy people. Daniel 12:1. Michael isn't just a generic warrior. He has a specific designation as Israel's protector. This connection isn't symbolic, but literal. Israel's supernatural survival as a nation is direct evidence of Michael's continuous angelic intervention throughout history. The ancient Kabbalistic texts describe Michael as the Sar HaPanim, the Prince of the Presence, who constantly stands before God's throne interceding specifically for Israel. This angelic intercession activates supernatural protection over the messianic lineage through which the redemptive plan is fulfilled. Israel's destiny and Michael's mission are inseparable in the prophetic unfolding of the last days. Modern Israel's history reveals inexplicable patterns of preservation that defy all odds. Wars won against numerically superior enemies, plots discovered at the last moment, attacks frustrated by climatological coincidences. These aren't historical accidents, but visible manifestations of the invisible protection that Michael exercises over the nation that carries prophetic promises not yet fulfilled. In apocalyptic manuscripts from the interbiblical period, Michael is portrayed with a sword and a scale, symbolizing his dual role as defender and judge of Israel. He protects the nation from external enemies, but also executes divine discipline when necessary. This duality explains the cycles of miraculous protection and apparent abandonment that characterize Jewish history, always calibrated for the exact fulfillment of the redemptive purpose. The spiritual war over Jerusalem has intensified exponentially in recent years. It's no coincidence that this city, insignificant in geopolitical terms, is the epicenter of world conflict. The earthly battles for this territory are just shadows of the spiritual conflict, in which Michael is engaged in the celestial regions for control of Mount Zion, the point of prophetic connection between heaven and earth. Michael's function as Israel's guardian reveals a vital spiritual principle. God always designates specific angelic protection to fulfill his prophetic purposes. Just as Israel wasn't abandoned, despite all attempts at annihilation, you too, as part of spiritual Israel, have a guarantee of supernatural preservation amid growing tribulation. The same angelic sword that defends Jerusalem is positioned around you at this moment. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not. Neither was their place found any more in heaven. Revelation 12:7-8. This celestial battle resulted in Satan's expulsion to earth, intensifying the spiritual conflict in the earthly realm where we now live. The term war in the original text, polemos, implies not an isolated confrontation, but a continuous military campaign with multiple strategic battles. What began in heaven now unfolds on various fronts on earth: economic systems, governmental structures, educational institutions, technological platforms, and, primarily, the human mind, the ultimate battlefield where Michael and his hosts confront demonic strongholds. The ancient Christian esoteric texts describe Michael as the guardian of the portal between spiritual dimensions. This function becomes critically important now when the boundaries between natural and supernatural are increasingly permeable. The documented increase in demonic manifestations, supernatural experiences, and inexplicable phenomena are evidence of a change in the structure of the dimensional veil that Michael was designated to monitor. Michael's strategy against the forces of darkness follows a consistent pattern throughout sacred history. He never acts independently, but always in direct response to divine decrees and in alignment with the cry of the saints. This synergy between human intercession and angelic intervention is the key to victory in the spiritual battles of these last days. Your role isn't passive. Your prayers literally activate angelic responses. Revelation 16 describes the final battle of Armageddon as a confrontation where supernatural and human forces converge. Michael will lead the celestial armies in this culminating conflict. The spirits of devils, working miracles, are already being sent to gather the kings of the earth for the battle of the great day, a global mobilization that is underway through geopolitical alliances, ideological movements, and strategic realignments, seemingly disconnected but prophetically significant. The Orthodox apocalyptic tradition describes Michael not just as a warrior, but as a liberator who breaks spiritual chains. As the final battle approaches, his liberating activity intensifies proportionally to demonic oppression. Many are experiencing inexplicable supernatural liberations, addictions broken instantly, compulsive thoughts silenced, oppressions lifted. These are signs of Michael's direct intervention, preparing the saints for the final phase of the conflict. How should you respond to these revelations about Michael and the end times? First, recognize that you aren't a passive observer, but an active participant in this cosmic war. Your spiritual positioning, your prayers, and prophetic declarations have direct impact in the spiritual realm. Michael responds to the saints' alignment with divine purpose. Your consecrated life literally strengthens the angelic hosts. Immediately implement this spiritual protocol. Each morning, before any contact with worldly influences, declare aloud, "Michael, great prince who stands up for God's people, strengthen the spiritual defenses around me today." This isn't a prayer to Michael, but a recognition of the divine order established. The ancients understood the power of verbally aligning with the angelic activity designated for their protection. Develop angelic discernment through this practice. Dedicate 21 minutes daily, like the 21 days of Michael's battle in Daniel 10, to contemplative silence, emptying your mind of earthly concerns and sharpening your sensitivity to higher spiritual frequencies. During this time, visualize the light of God's presence completely enveloping you. Many have reported extraordinary prophetic perceptions and angelic encounters after establishing this rhythm for at least a week. Fortify yourself against the deception of the last days through daily immersion in Scripture. Michael defends truth. Connect to that truth. Focus especially on apocalyptic texts, Daniel, Ezekiel, Zechariah, and Revelation. Read them not just for information, but for revelation. Proclaim aloud the passages that speak of celestial victory. The declared word creates a spiritual frequency that resonates with Michael's activity in the celestial realms. This is the perfect moment for you to click the subscribe button and activate the notification bell. Why? Because in upcoming videos I'll reveal specific prophetic codes about Michael's activation in situations of personal crisis. This information is literally vital for your protection in the chaotic days that are coming. Don't miss it. Also, leave your comment with the word "awakened" so I know this message has reached your spirit. Prepare practically for days of turbulence. Michael protects, but also expects vigilance. Maintain reserves of basic supplies. Cultivate relationships with other vigilant believers. Distance yourself from systems compromised by the spirit of Antichrist. Angelic protection doesn't substitute human prudence. They work together. True discerners are already being intuitively guided to these preparations by the same spirit that directs Michael. Finally, practice spiritual warfare modeled by Michael, with authority, but also with humility. Never confront darkness in your own name or power, but always under the supreme authority. The Lord rebuke you. This approach avoids both fearful passivity and presumptuous arrogance, the two extremes that neutralize many spiritual warriors. Michael wins because he knows his position in the divine hierarchy. neither above nor below where he should be. What we've revealed today about Michael and his connection to the final events isn't common knowledge. It was preserved through the centuries by those who kept their spiritual eyes open when the masses slept in religious comfort. Archangel Michael isn't a distant figure from Christian mythology. He is an active presence, a celestial warrior, engaged right now in defending the elect during the intensification of the eschatological conflict. Michael's creation wasn't an isolated historical event, but a prophetic provision for this exact moment in which you live. His name, who is like God, resonates as a declaration of war against every lie, every distortion, every idol that rises up. And now, in these final days, his activity has reached unprecedented levels. The signs are everywhere for those who have eyes to see. Supernatural manifestations, inexplicable liberations, miraculous protections amid growing chaos. The ancient scriptures were coded precisely for this moment, when the veil between dimensions would become thinner and the battle more intense. Daniel 12:1 isn't talking about a distant future, but about your present. And at that time shall Michael stand up, and there shall be a time of trouble such as never was. This trouble isn't just external, but internal. Spiritual pressures, mental attacks, emotional conflicts that many are experiencing without understanding their true spiritual nature. What will you do with this revelation? Will you continue living as if these celestial realities didn't exist? Or will you take your place in the spiritual army that Michael commands in these final days? The choices you make now, every decision, every word, every thought, position you spiritually. No neutrality is possible. The time of lukewarmness is over. Michael stands up for those whose names are in the book. Do you know that yours is?